Welcome back to another episode of the Higher Ed Podcast. I'm your host, Kamar D. Jarnett. I'm flying solo today, at least from the engine side. Got a great guest with us. The charismatic Dr. Kreassig is here. Great to have you. I appreciate you making yourself available for myself and the audience. I'd
Thank you,
love to
Kmart.
hear your kind of origin story. Maybe introduce yourself to the audience. How'd you become so successful in higher ed?
Thank you. Thank you. Successful, I appreciate that. But I'm here for service. I've got about 32, 33 years in education. I started first, actually, this is not necessarily a second career, but I started first in banking.
Oh,
Um, and really, after about 8 years, noticed that I wasn't enjoying the job. Funny story though, the friends I met there and stuck with it have now retired, and I'm still working, but that's okay. I love what I do. Um, I changed careers and became an oceanography teacher at my old high school.
wow.
And in high school, I know not only was I a student, I was a student athlete. So I helped with sports. I was teaching 11th graders basically oceanography. And after my first year, I had the principal at the time tapped me on the shoulder and said, "I think you'd make a great administrator." So I went down that road, went back to school to become an administrator. Um, Eventually landed up as a principal and finished my career in another school division, Portsmouth Public Schools at Churchland, um, which was one of the most rewarding jobs I've ever had, but also one of the most difficult jobs I've ever had. Um, just dealing with a really good community that had needs, and um, we worked together as a faculty to get the school accredited. We worked with community members. But it was interesting because I would occasionally have student teachers come to my school when I was principal. And I remember going in just to do a quick, not necessarily observation, just to check on them. And they were struggling.
Mm,
All these bright, beautiful young people coming in to teach were just struggling
mm.
and just being eaten up by the students. And that's when I said we've got to do something about this. And I remember really starting to research it. And at that time, I was an adjunct professor at a local university.
Sure.
And as part of it was the School of Education, but I was more in the program evaluation and implementation type of program and course that I was teaching. But it really struck me that this is what we need to do. And as my path laid out, I actually got a call from an old friend that said, "Hey, there's a position that we have at Regent University. Would you like to come on?" It's the teacher education. And with my experience as a principal, I knew exactly what to do. And we took the program from the bottom quartile to the 95th percentile in about 3 years.
Nice.
And we produce teachers who they don't need on the job training. They are ready to go. They know how to disaggregate classroom data to know which students need assistance. And we have a great ed leadership program. Our neighboring district, that's about a mile and a half that way, a neighboring city,
Uh-huh.
Chesapeake Public Schools, around 65% of the school leadership, whether it's elementary, middle, or high school, the principal or the assistant principal and principal at times at the same school, 65% of the schools have one of our graduates leading those schools. And that's a blue ribbon school system. So
Wow.
where the rubber meets the road, that speaks to the success of the faculty here at Regent and just what we're doing to have a positive impact on our local communities.
Nice, nice. No, it's awesome. So one of the questions we always ask, is kind of from a movie called Brown Sugar, where they say, when did you first fall in love with hip hop? So we ask the question, when did you first fall in love with higher ed? And typically we kind of ask it in two parts.
Uh-huh.
When did you fall in love with higher ed? And I think that's probably one story or one answer. But then when did you fall in love with leadership in higher ed? Because those can kind of be two different things.
Yeah. It's interesting because um, falling in love with working in higher ed, I will say I've been in my position. This is my seventh year as dean and
Sure.
about my 13th year here at Regent University. And the newness of the job has never worn off.
Mm,
I look forward to coming to work. I don't dread it. In the morning time, we've all had those jobs where you drive to work, you're like, oh,
yep.
I got so much to. I've never had that. I have
Mm,
things to do here. Yes, I'm busy. but I get joy out of what I do. And I think just seeing the impact, the change. We're very much a practitioner oriented school. Regent University, we're not an R1 research school. Um, we meet the needs of the community. When a school or school system is struggling, this is when we meet with them and say, what can we do to serve your students and your faculty? And then we create programs, we create plans, we create professional development to serve them. And that's really what I get joy out of.
No, absolutely. It's that. I remember being in admissions, and it was like you always thought, you were helping, the student, change their life and change the life of, of their family. So it was, how many people can I help today? Right.
Yes.
And when you're thinking like that, you become extremely, extremely excited. So I get exactly what you're saying. So, and then, the passion of faculty working with students. So, everything you talked about, how much has that either been enhanced or flipped upside down with the advent of AI,
Sure.
coming into the world?
Yeah. Well, most of when you look at higher education as a whole across internationally too, we see a graying of higher education, which, we like to more or less call it maybe wisdoming as we get older, but the general core of faculty are older and not familiar with that technology. So we here at Regent, my School of Education, we knew we had to embrace it. We know that our students are using it. They may not tell us, but they are using it. So it's almost like keeping up with your own kids. That's the funny thing too. When you teach, if you're a K-12 teacher or higher ed teacher, you're kind of in the know about the language the kids use because you're around it all the time.
Right.
Um, but AI really is something that we are embracing as a faculty. But there are so many aspects of how do we train our students to use it with discernment and to let us know when they're using it. Is it okay for faculty to use it? How should they use it? So we actually earlier this year, I do have a faculty member that has a background in technology, various aspects of technology, instructional technology, um, and a background in AI. And she helped to develop what we have as a school community and committee where we have tackled these issues, roundtabling. How do faculty feel about it? And it's kind of funny when it first came out. Some faculty were like, "Okay, nothing's going to ever happen to me. I don't need to use it." But if we see it as a tool, and how do we leverage that tool to maybe provide margin of time too in our jobs in our lives, um, we can actually probably do a better job. So we have really taken it, even though I don't think it's been disruptive. And I appreciate. I told my faculty this a couple months ago when the CEO of NVIDIA said, AI is not going to come replace all the jobs, especially if you are in a job where you're leveraging the tool of AI to help enhance
Sure.
whatever you do. And that's what we're doing right now. So we spent the past year developing in committee for our School of Education faculty what is appropriate use for our faculty. We
Yep.
didn't start with students first, we started with ourselves.
Gotcha.
How are we allowed to take student work and have AI grade it? Is that ethical?
Right.
Um, and what about FERPA concerns? You just can't put student work out there, into, let's say, Chat GPT and say, please grade this based on this rubric.
Yep.
That violates FERPA policy. And if we are using aspects to enhance or to provide better feedback to students, not having student names, but using it in a way, we need to let students know that we are using AI. Because I think we all realize if you were to drop a student paper into AI, like let's just say one of the larger ones, the Chat or Claude, and you say grade this work, you take out the student's name, but just say grade, let's say this paper based on this rubric, look for APA, look for content, grammar, structure. That report from that artificial intelligence engine will provide better feedback than most faculty.
Mm.
The problem is that feedback sometimes is not done with ethics. It's not done communicated well. So we have developed policy here that if faculty do use AI, even if it's to develop a new assignment for students, that we actually let students know that this is what we have done, that we've used AI for this, et cetera. And then for the students, we've turned around and done similar policy to that. Our university has an AI policy. Basically, it's more or less one that is generic enough that says if you're going to utilize AI, then you need to cite that you've utilized AI,
Yep.
because we don't want our faculty to be AI police. And I think that is
Mm.
really, it's not hitting graduate faculty, but if you have a professor who's teaching English 101 and getting freshmen coming in, all those freshman students typically are using AI to write their paper or to do, and they're not learning the fundamentals, right? So
Okay.
we have technology in higher education that you can, AI detectors, let's say, right? So when a student turns in, we have a platform called, it's a learning management system, LMS. It's called Canvas, very popular. You may have heard of it, very similar to
Yep.
Blackboard.
Yep.
But when a student uploads their work, automatically it is reviewed by programs that look for AI coding. And then you may get a printout or the student's paper that will show highlights in red, what was copied directly from AI because of the coding, what was in yellow, what was in green, which the green would be maybe their own words that they put in. As a faculty member, you don't want to be the AI police and that's all that you do, because then it's contacting the student to say, hey, 50% of your paper was detected as AI. You need to redo it. That can just
Mm.
become a cycle of over and over and over. And students truly in English 101, they have to learn the mechanics, the fundamentals of putting, let's say, a persuasive argument together. How do you build the argument? How do you start your first paragraph? How do you put, the context in that you're discussing in that paper to convince somebody it's a persuasive argument? They're not learning that when they use AI. They're learning how to use AI by you're putting in some prompts, but they're not learning the mechanics of writing, of penmanship, of grammar. So that really, to me, AI, the biggest disruptor right now, are on those type of English professors at the undergraduate level. Is it happening on the graduate side? Sure, it is. But for most of our graduate students, I'm not teaching writing skills, fundamental writing skills. They've already learned that. Our
Yep.
average student here is mid 30s with a family. They're already in a leadership position. So we have them leverage AI in different ways to do project oriented instead of a reflection paper. They're doing projects. But that's my biggest concern about AI right now is how do um, professors who are teaching freshmen English or maybe another subject, um, how do they not become the AI police? And there are all sorts of technologies out there, cameras.
Yep.
They have lockdown browsers, so they can't leave the browser. But there's ways around. Kids are always a step ahead, right?
Yep.
They always know what they can and can't do. But we just want everybody to be honest. If you're using it, let us know. And if you use it, these are the sections on maybe the assignment that you're allowed to use it,
Got it.
because we can't just say no, you can never use it. That's not going to happen. That the
Right.
reality is everyone's going to use it, including adults. Even if you had a policy at a workplace that said you cannot use AI, well, they may not use it at work, but they might go home and use it on something for work.
Sure.
Um, it's here to stay.
Yeah.
And I leverage AI. I'm actually working on something now where I'm trying to track the success of our principals.
Yeah.
And I'm modeling to my faculty how I use AI. So in Virginia, most of the, let's say, the end of year student test scores in public schools, like how did the fourth graders do? How did this class do? That's protected by FERPA. So we don't
Yep.
get that information. But they do produce overall school and grade level data.
Mm.
That maybe the eighth grade student scored a certain percent on the writing exam. Well, I'm using AI, I'm using Claude, which our university has a partnership with,
Oh.
to find the information not only on our Virginia Department of Ed website, but also other indicators out there. If there's an attendance report or something like that, to put together a package so I can track the success of our school leaders who are our alumni. If somebody, let's say, was at a local middle school for 5 years, did that school leader who's one of our alumni improve the culture of that school, improve student achievement, improve attendance rates, all those things. And that's something that would have taken months and months and months, if not a year, to do. And I am doing this probably in about a week.
Wow. So, do you feel like, I guess overall, is it embraced?
Yeah, absolutely. So
Okay.
um, I will say that we have to be careful with faculty that if they do see, if one of our AI detectors, and it can be wrong, AI detectors are not 100% foolproof. Um, and here's a caveat that you may not have thought about much or heard, but the more detailed faculty are in the instructions for an assignment, or the more detailed they are, and this is step one, step two, step three, the more students' papers are going to look the same.
Yeah.
The more it's
Yep.
going to look like AI.
Yep.
So, with increased specificity on an assignment, sometimes we see a higher indicator that AI was used, and at times it wasn't. So it's
Mm,
very. We talk with our faculty about we can't accuse. We're not going to go out and accuse the student right away. If we do think something is wrong with a student submission, we will communicate with them, say, hey, this just came up. Did you use AI? Did you? And most students will be like, yeah, I just use it just to get my outline going. Okay, no problem. We
okay.
can work with that, but just be careful because here's a paper and this is what was cited or this is what was indicated as plagiarism from AI. Um, but again, there are tools out there at everyone's disposal that you can put it in chat zero and it can remove all that coding so it's not detected by AI. But the thing about AI that's going to be disruptor, what I'm worried about for the younger generation,
Yep.
um, as my generation was told that the computer's going to fry your brain and you can never think critically again, you'll never learn.
Mm,
But AI truly is taking something away from the learning process.
sure.
Yes, you have learned how to type in a prompt or to ask it to do something, but that complexity of that critical thinking is being lost somewhere. I really feel, and I think that is where I'm a little worried because we did see, it's when I go to an observation. Let's just say I go to an elementary school next week and I go into a classroom. Many times I see a teacher when the teacher he or she asks a question to a class. Let's say,
Yep.
students, here's a picture of a wave. Can anybody show me where the crest of the wave is on this diagram? And it's crickets. Nobody's saying anything.
Mm,
Sometimes the teacher doesn't have that wait time and just gives them the answer,
right.
and are the students really processing, okay, what's the crest of the wave? They're just waiting for the answer. That's what ChatGPT does sometimes or is doing.
Right.
Now, we don't know what the long-term effects are going to be, but there are positives to ChatGPT,
Sure.
very much. But our biggest thing we talk about here too in our university is that there's no ethics in AI. There's no moral code built into AI. Um, and that's the thing that I do worry about, and that can never take away. Like I told my faculty, um, could AI, and this is you'll like this. This is what I proposed to them one day, just to get them thinking about this. So about 2 months ago at the faculty meeting, I said, hey, I have a great business plan for everyone. Let's go into business and we will create something called the dissertation dude. And this will be an AI bot that
Yep.
will walk somebody through their dissertation, will mentor them, will nudge them pleasantly along the way, will help them, guide them in writing. And I said, well, what's the takeaway here? Like, would that even work? And I wanted them to understand that the number one thing that you bring to the table here, it's not your degrees, it's not how smart you are, it's your connection with that student, the relationship, that personal connection. As you have a mentor, a human that takes you through a dissertation process where you discuss topics and you get feedback, even though that feedback can be critical at times or it may not be what you want.
Sure.
They're doing it because that professor truly cares about you. That professor wants you to be successful. AI can't do that.
Mm.
or if there's appearance of it, it's not the same.
Right. It's interesting too because it's like the next generation is like they're not they're not going to necessarily think of answers, but they're going to know where to find the answers.
Exactly.
Yeah, and it's like a totally different, approach or mentality.
So one thing, one of our uh, vice president of academic affairs, Dr. Jason Baker, who leads AI policy across our university and is researching, has different research initiatives, was talking about, especially with the dissertation itself, not just the writing of the dissertation, but chapter 2 of a dissertation is called the literature review. It's where students go in and they find evidence in the literature of whatever topic they are researching. And I remember when I did mine, I had to go to the library and check out books and find out, just go through stacks and stacks of volumes of things, and find things online. Obviously online. I was doing it in early 2000s, so yes, we had the internet, and I could find some articles and everything. But if I was getting a dissertation right now, I could use one prompt in an AI platform that in 3 minutes could give me 200 of the resources I need to write my dissertation. That would have taken 6 months to a year previously. That's the difference. So it is going to change the way and the timeline of these professional degrees. And will that, is that going to change higher education? Think about this. If everything we know is already out there and free, do you still need to go to college? Do you still
Mm,
need to um, I would say yes, the undergraduate on campus living experience will never go away. It's always going to be there. The sports, everything else. But with higher education, if Kmar, if you wanted to say, you know what, I want to learn everything there is to know about becoming a special education teacher, you could just put that and it would just crank out whatever
yep,
prompts about special ed, and you could become, a quasi expert in no time. And if you had to do that another way, you'd have to spend 2 years in a master's program or something. So we've got to think about that. That may
sure,
come to fruition one day.
sure. So, great point. So, do you think that, I used to say 5, 10 years from now, but the singularity is near. So now 5 to 10 years is probably 1 to 2 years. So let's go two to
Yes.
three. Do you think higher ed will potentially have to evolve in order to continue to be what it is?
What? Yes, 100%. There will be some universities, some powerhouse universities that take the first leap. There's a lot of universities, public universities and private Christian, that are very innovative. And the first one that branches out with that, and if it is endorsed by whether it's an accreditation body or accrediting body or something, then we all will follow.
Sure.
Um, but yeah, there's going to be, I actually see that the future of AI is going to be the degrees are going to look different. I think it's going to be a menu approach. We're not going to see a master's in curriculum instruction. We're going to see a master's that will have 2 classes in curriculum instruction, maybe 2 law classes, 2 classes from an MBA program, maybe 2 classes from, because anything else, you can learn the basics of curriculum and instruction. But if I'm going to learn to write let's say, a curriculum unit on third grade science, I'll just go to AI and do it. I don't need somebody to tell me and teach me how to do it. You know what I mean? It's going to be different as we look at these degrees. I really see that, and the change I think it's going to be a good change. Now it's hard to stomach for people, and I get it because there's going to be some massive upheaval across the board at higher education down the road. Um, some degrees will never go away. We still need, I wouldn't trust AI to, as many people that you hear. I saw a report where people are going to AI to get diagnosis for medical conditions. That's pretty scary. I'd rather have somebody I know went to medical school.
Yep.
But, we think about this. We're already having, and this is the sad thing, if you go out to any area, public area, it could be a mall, it could be a restaurant, Look how many young children are glued to their phone with some sort of a program that's undergirded by AI, or watching a cartoon with the parents not engaged. You know what I mean? And just kind of doing their thing. Um, that to me is probably one of the most scary thing, because when you think about how we're going to be learning in the future, how much we're learning, these kids are already being affected by AI. I mean, we
Mm.
all are, don't even know it half the time. Um, but what I'm getting at is, yes, the way we learn is going to change. AI is already there for programs for elementary kids, middle school kids, high school kids, in various forms and various shapes. But 5 years from now, it may look totally different. Um, I don't believe that. Let me just give you the perspective on higher education and adjunct professors. Would an AI bot do a better job lecturing, providing feedback to students on their submissions, whatever whether it's a paper or a product that they submit or upload to a learning platform, maybe a discussion post?
Mhm.
Um, would that do a better job than an actual adjunct faculty member? Probably. Better feedback, better. But is it the right thing to do? Is it taking something away from the learning if you're just listening to, and it may, we make it to the point where I've already seen AI where the AI the diagrams look so human. Whatever the anime or animation is created, I've
Yep.
seen videos that are AI. I wouldn't be able to tell the difference. But if you had that as a professor, teaching and lecturing um, of whatever content it is, and then the student never meeting that professor, yeah, learning's going on, but there's something missing about that personal human interaction and touch. Because you could be in a schoolhouse. We're doing it now in the public schools, where you may have one teacher in high school teaching Italian, but what she teaches is being broadcast out to all these other schools, because you only have one teacher teaching Italian, right? Maybe it's a foreign language that you want to learn.
Yep.
So but I mean, why not use AI for that? But there's something that's missing. So it's a almost a beautiful problem to have, because on one hand, it can create all these efficiencies. It can save money. But something is lost from that learning, which is really like the human touch. It's the human piece, that human aspect, where learning really comes from.
Amazing. Amazing. Uh I agree 100%. It's just interesting you you unpack so much.
I know I was all over the place, because that's what it is. It changes every day,
Yep.
and even my own reflection and my own understanding changes every single day
Yeah.
on
Yeah.
AI.
It's I like your openness to it, and the realness of what could be expected to change, and things of that nature. I'm curious to what you've seen from a faculty and administrative viewpoint or perspective in higher ed. Is one group a little bit more open to it than the other? Or are they both the same? And the only reason I ask is because sometimes in higher ed things can move a little bit slower than we
Yeah,
need them to move.
yeah. Glacial speed is what we call that sometimes. Yeah, you know what? Obviously, I think as an administrator, when you're able to step back and look at the bigger picture
Yep.
and have time to reflect on leveraging it to benefit everyone, I think administrators typically are more prone to accept it. But understanding, many of us came from a faculty perspective, we still have that hat to put on, that lens,
Yep.
where if you're teaching and trying to impart knowledge in that skill set, even if it's an applied science class of how to go about doing something, AI is taking away something from that. And I get it. I totally get it. So it's really about, for us, we communicate often with students about how they should use it, how they should use it ethically, and cite it and let us know when they use it. And we have these conversations. In fact, in front of me right now, I had a faculty meeting today, and this was our revised, um, our artificial intelligence guidelines for faculty,
Wow.
and what we do. And it's, stewarding technology, modeling ethical technology, things of that nature. Like, how do we use it, and how do we model the way for our students? Um, and we have to keep doing that all the time and reminding students. And that's what it is. It's like anything else. It has to be on somebody's agenda. If you're a faculty member, it should be an agenda item at the beginning of each class. Just, hey, don't forget about AI, our policies. Remind them often, because that's part of our job too. Is not only to lead the way and model by behavior and what we say, but it's also we don't want to wait for them to make a mistake. We need to be proactive with this and say, hey, this is what you should be thinking about when it comes to AI. Even at home, you don't want to take all your bank statements, load them in there, and say create a budget.
Yep.
Your stuff's out there now. Who knows what's going to happen with that information? I don't know anything about how secure any of that information is. Down the road, what if it all got out and there's your
Yeah.
personal information out there?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely, absolutely. I think kind of I'll wrap it up here, and AI is definitely the hot topic. And
Yeah,
a few months ago, we met with a panel that was I think the CQ panel, and they were kind of ushering into a lot of higher ed professionals, you know, AI task force guide, right? How do we step into this world? And one of the questions I asked them, I said, well, I watch a lot of MSNBC. They talk about stocks and, you take NVIDIA. I think you talked about Jensen Wine earlier. And, well, what inning is, the electric car revolution, or what inning is AI in, right? And, the question I asked them is in regards to AI in higher ed, what inning are we in? And they said, and I quote, we haven't even left the locker room. Now,
that's
this
right.
was
I was going to say the
months
game's not
ago.
started.
So you would
Yeah,
agree with that?
100%. I 100.
Wow.
Look how, I mean, even now, um, I use a paid subscription for an AI platform, and it already knows everything about me. If I just say, because I do use AI to leverage margin of time all the time. If I've got to write a letter to a donor, I just do a simple prompt with the information I need, and it signs it with my name and everything else. It looks, I can print it out right then and there. So the scary thing is that the AI really gets to know who you are and caters to your writing style, caters to your background, your expertise. And that's what we're going to see. And it is scary, especially for young people. Again, I don't know what the impact is going to be on the wellness of
Yep.
young people. I'm an old guy, so is it affecting? No, I'm leveraging it for time and things like that. But for somebody who could be, 11 or 12 years old, that's dabbling in it. By the time you get to 15, what does that look like, and how much are they using it? And have they forgot to think critically? Um, you know, do they know what to do? The power goes out, and they actually have to do something for themselves. Can they do it? I'm sure they can, but it's a skill set that I think can be slowly lost over time.
Awesome. Well, I can't think of a better place to end it than right here. Um, you're an awesome guest.
Thanks.
You really do have the charisma. One of the questions I was like, man, are you a coach?
I used to be, yeah, coach and a player. I love it. Yes. Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, listen, anything you want to share with the audience? Are you working with a novel? Here's your time to kind of plug anything, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, Snapchat, whatever you want to do.
Yeah. So, real quick, one of the things I'm doing right now is writing a small piece for it's an educational journal, and really, I'm talking about the ethical dilemma that new graduates face with using AI to create their resume and their cover letter, which may be too embellished or may not be them. You could come out with a great, and then you
Yeah.
go to that interview and nothing matches. What you say doesn't quite match what's on there.
Right.
So, how do you use AI, because most people are still going to use it to develop their resume and write that first cover letter. But how are you doing it so that it is truly you? That when you go to the interview, the real you comes out and it
Sure.
matches what you say on the resume and the cover letter.
Absolutely. Well, on that note, I'll end it. Look forward to meeting with you again, and possibly
Absolutely.
getting you on the Everything Higher Ed podcast. I think you'd have a lot to contribute. Thank you for your time, my friend, and enjoy the rest of your day. This was great.
Thank you, Kmar. God bless and take care.
All right. Bye bye.
Bye bye.